for our people and for our future. Tonight, as I stand before you, Barbados deserves leadership that put people before power, country before control, service before self. Tonight, this will be a disciplined meeting. If you come here for jokes, they're going to be few and far between. Every speaker will respect the time they have. And every contribution will respect you. Tonight, we gather here under the theme, Barbados First. And during the night, as we continue, we're going to shout Barbados First. And Barbados First means we first, the nation first, your concerns first, the issue that affect you first. That's the message of the Democratic Labour Party. Speightstown, if you are ready for leadership with integrity, courage, and vision, if you are ready for courage, integrity, wisdom, let me hear you say, community-minded. Please welcome Ramon Goodman, candidate for St. Andrew.
They can't keep a good man down. Always keep a smile when they want me to frown. Keep the vibes and I stood my ground. They will never ever take my crown. Oh, Jah bless, I say no man curse. Things getting better when they thought it would be worse. Here comes the officers asking for a search. They found no weapon, just only a draw first. But I'm so solid as a rock, they just can't stop me now. Even when they set their traps, they just can't stop me now.
Good night, Speightstown. I said, good night, Speightstown. It is an absolute pleasure to be here in Speightstown. I actually just went to school, just short there, at the fantastic school of Alexandra. What a lovely school, what a beautiful school. And I know the people of St. Peter, they are faced with a lot of the challenges that the people of St. Andrew, of the St. Andrew constituency, they face. And I am here to speak on behalf of the people of the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew. Now I know, as I'm in this constituency, I know that you want to hear a lot about Speightstown. But I'm going to tell you this now. There is no part of Barbados I will go without talking about the challenges that the people of the St. Andrew constituency face. Now, before I proceed, I'm going to address something that the outgoing representative would have mentioned and continue to mention about, obviously, yours truly. He talked about, I'm a man from town. That man from town. Now, the people of the St. Andrew constituency, they see it as being extremely hypocritical, as he has men from China building and maintaining infrastructure in the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew. The people of the constituency of St. Andrew, their advice, it is the hypocrisy for them. He also mentioned that the man from town, he knows nothing about the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew. Now, I just want to say, I know lots and lots and lots more about the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew, and I'll tell you how. I have traversed the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew on many occasions. I have socialized. I have hiked. I have roast breadfruit. I have played many a sport. Now, the outgoing representative, he advised he has never played a sport in his life. And I can tell you this, I played a little cricket, a lot of cricket as well too, in the constituency. And you know with cricket, you obviously do some fielding, you have to dive. Some soil, lots of soil would have gone on these floors in the St. Andrew constituency. The current representative or the outgoing representative, he has a campaign song, Peeping. I just want to say big up to the creative who would have produced that song. Big up Jaguar, the champ, for sure. I love the creatives. Jaguar, the champ, he's now going to solidify my point in regards to the same campaign song, Peeping. Now, I went on a hike. It was a hike in which we were raising some funds for the football team in Orange Hill. I went through the flora, which is the bush. I cut down some vines. I had to jump over lots of wood, climb up some hills. I thoroughly enjoyed that hike. Again, more soil, more St. Andrew constituency soil on my clothes. And you know what? I don't know if he received a call from one of the people in which I was hiking with, or he called them. But he turned up. And nearly the end of thing to do. Because any place the people of the St. Andrew constituency is, Ramon Goodman will be. Listening to the people. Listening to the people of the St. Andrew constituency. Now, again, I will continue to speak on behalf of the people of the St. Andrew constituency. Just like obviously Speightstown, they have a serious issue with roads. A serious issue with roads. Now, after $256 million borrowed from the men from China, again, I am not xenophobic, I am spitting facts here tonight, people. After $256 million, they are unable, and mind you, they would have borrowed that money in 2022. Enough time have gone by in which they should have had the roads sorted in a serious way. People are still complaining about the roads in St. Andrew. And the people advise, don't even get them started in regards to transportation. Now, a gentleman, in order to get to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, he has to leave his home at 5 a.m. in the morning. Kindly imagine how the commute would be. The fatigue that person would face when he gets to work. That is not good enough. It cannot be good enough at all. We need to do something about it. The North needs the D's. The North needs the D's. Let us now talk about the recreational facilities, community centers. Now, as I continue to traverse the beautiful constituency, an older gentleman, he said, look, I'm here living by myself. I'm living by myself, and I would like a place to go and interact with other older people. How can that be possible? I told him straight, at this point in time, it can't be possible because the community centers are closed. He would like a place in which the older people can commute, the older people can have conversations. The community centers are closed. I think, and I strongly think, we should build from within the community and build out. That is not happening. It is not happening. We are all about, the Democratic Labour Party is all about BIM first. Communities first. Communities first. And they have continued to neglect the communities. We need to deal with that in a serious way. In a serious way. It cannot continue to happen. It will not continue to happen. Again, the D's, the North needs the D's. The North needs the D's. We in the Democratic Labour Party, we believe in the ordinary Barbadian. We believe in BIM first. We believe that you should start from within the community and you should build out. Now, I saw a sports person well traversing the constituency. A sports person, young, energetic, in Chalky Mount. In Chalky Mount. The young man would have come to me and he said to me, Ramon, we have no place at all. We don't have any place at all to play football, to play cricket. In Chalky Mount. In Chalky Mount. Again, not good enough. Not good enough at all. We need to deal with the situation. There are lots of young, energetic people out there that need to have recreational facilities. We go to Conran Hunt, and Conran Hunt's pavilion, dilapidated, in a state of repair. That should never be happening in the St. Andrew constituency. Conran Hunt was once a stalwart where cricket was concerned. Cricket in Barbados is extremely important, and Conran Hunt was a stalwart, and his pavilion is dilapidated and in a state of repair. That needs to be sorted. Of course, of course. Now, I continue to listen to the people of this constituency. And again, I'm going to move away from, obviously, the outgoing representative shortly. I'm going to move away from him shortly. But I just want to say one thing. This is the state that Barbados is in now. The outgoing representative, he would have told a constituent, give me the vote. I gave you a JP post. That is not good enough. That is total madness. That is not the Barbados that I know. That is not the way you go about asking for a vote. He should have said, you know what? I would have funded a football team, or I would have funded a community activity, you know, and asked for the vote kindly. Not tell the gentleman, you know what, I gave you a JP post, and that is why you should vote for me. That is Indian giving. That is someone who is an Indian giver, and that is not good enough, you know. And these are the things that the people in the constituency That is what they continue to talk about. In regards to small businesses within the constituency, they continue to struggle. They continue to talk about the fact how difficult it is to even get off the ground and continue to function. You know? And the reality of it is, all of the representatives in the constituencies, they get a constituency allowance. And that is something they should look at. That they should be taking the constituency allowance and building within the constituency, not taking it and doing something else differently. That is not what we are here for as a representative. No, the people, they have also been saying that so-called Anti-mea is anti-Barbadian. Also, it appears that so-called Anti-mea is also anti-Ramon Goodman, as he's unable to get anything in the constituency done because he's tied up. Mea and more Mortley and also Santee Bradshaw, they have been privatized. They're privatizing everything, and it appears he has been privatized as well too, because the people of the constituency, they are saying that he's unable to get any project on the ground. That is not the type of representation you want in the St. Andrew constituency. You want a representative who will make enough noise, lots of noise, publicly so, and I will do so. Now, in regards to Speightstown and your incoming representative, Jason Phillips, he is energetic. He's a man of integrity. He's a man that will keep enough noise for you. I know him personally. And the people of St. Peter, let me tell you, he will keep noise. If something is not going right within the constituency, he will keep enough noise and advocate on your behalf. The people of St. Peter, just like the people of the St. Andrew constituency, you need a representative that would advocate on your behalf. You need a representative that will listen to you. You need a representative who would find solutions for all of your challenges. You don't need a representative like Colin Jordan, who, for some reason, well, we know the reason he would have come out of his shell when elections would have called. You don't need somebody like that. Jason Phillips, I would have seen him mention so many solutions within the constituency. He's solution focused. And that is the type of man you want. You know, he's not the type of person who, as soon as elections are called, he's up and going. It is laboring for the minister, the outgoing minister of labor, to say anything on behalf of the people of St. Peter. It is laboring. And that is something that you need to consider when you go and place that X, the 11th of February. The North needs the D's. The North needs the D's. Now, I would encourage you in a serious way to vote out the Barbados Labour Party. Vote out the Barbados Labour Party. And I'm going to tell you this, constituents. If you do not go and place your X, you're automatically and by default, you are voting for the Barbados Labour Party. You're not voting for change. Change is needed in this constituency. Change is needed in Barbados. And last but not least, to the people of the St. Andrew constituency and St. Peter, I truly love you unconditionally. Good night.
Putting people first, putting Barbados first. This is the DLP way of governing. Higher standards, open hands. Barbados first. Respect the minds of nations. Barbados first.
Thank you, Ramon. Thank you, Ramon Goodman, from
from the constituency of St. Andrew. And Ramon, you can't be serious when you said that the outgoing representative has a tune, his campaign tune as peeping. Speightstown, you remember what ministry he was in before this one? Not education. Transport is this one. And what he was doing from behind Santia? Peeping. They put him in this ministry. And every time you see Santia, he behind her peeping. So he's the peep boss of the Barbados Labour Party. So thank you again, Ramon Goodman. I keep saying Goodman. I work with a teacher that way. So Ramon Goodman, please relieve him of his peeping job. Our next speaker brings over 20 years in financial services, regional management, experience, strong communities, and sports leadership. A Pride of Barbados Award recipient, committed to accountability and integrity. Please help me welcome Pedro Graves, candidate for St. James South.
Oh, yo, 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 yo.
Eddie is the man,
He is ready and steady,
listening with care.
serving with integrity.
So St. James South, let we go.
Vote Pedro,
Vote Pedro,
vote Pedro,
vote Pedro,
vote Pedro.
vote Pedro. Vote Pedro.
Greetings to the good people of St. Peter. A warm welcome to everyone who has ventured here from other parishes. I see some good people there from St. Lucie. They were also up in Oistins. So I just want to thank you all for following the DLP. I see Arlette there. I see the good people of St. James South who also supported me on this journey as we look to reclaim seats in Parliament to serve the interests of this country, the country that we love. I want to first start by highlighting our comrade leader. They call him the Rat. Reliable, accountable, transparent. And I'm sure you all are seeing the video that is going around social media with none other than the Honorable Prime Minister endorsing him during the last election, speaking of the type of man that he is. But they are now switching, and that's consistent, because their morning words are not the same as their evening words. But the reason why they don't like him, or the reason why they are attacking him, is because, no pun intended, he has been a thorn in their sides. He has kept this country informed of all the corruption, of all the oppressive legislation. He has been one person in Parliament against 29. And every time he's making a contribution, they are making what the House Speaker says as a size, not allow him to speak, because when he speaks truth. And the rat that we know, RAT, is the resistance against tyranny in Barbados. Resistance against tyranny. And we hear it all throughout Barbados. We hear the words leadership, but then we hear absolute power. And we all know what happens when there is absolute power. This absolute power has caused many of Barbadians frustration. The people are frustrated. They're tired of the lectures. They're tired of the speeches. They're tired of the PR optics. This is a government of PR. They're tired of all the loans and entertainment. But they're also tired of the rising cost of living, because for all the loans that they have received, it has not filtered down to the ordinary Barbadian. We're the middle class. It's now the working poor. The poor is left to beg. And the well-off, they're seeing their legacy fall by the wayside. Barbadians are tired. Barbadians are frustrated. We don't see they had an increase in the health levy, and they're boasting of $112 million increase. But that has not resonated in better health care. And I'm preaching to the comforted here tonight because you all know and you all have seen the state of our health care in Barbados. The people are tired of the Barbados Labour Party's philosophies. And they are wising up to the social media commentators who are being paid to pretend that all is well in this country, to pretend that everyone is still supporting the Barbados Labour Party. But I can tell you that wherever I go, while canvassing, not only in St. James South, but throughout Barbados, the word on the ground is correct and it's true. Barbadians are frustrated. I promise not to speak about my opponent on a political platform. And someone today showed me what they are calling a report card. And the person asked me to highlight this. Within that report card of the current MP for St. James South, the pictures in that report card, my friends, are from 2011. You hear what I said? The pictures are from 2017. Nothing current. An admission of absence and lack of representation within the constituency. And that is the same thing throughout all of Barbados. Lack of representation. Can you imagine? Not one sports club, not one social group, not one youth club was mentioned in that report card. At least she was honest. Nothing. And that is why, and I said it before in all these things, and I'll say it again, that is the reason why MIA is plastered over every poll in Barbados. It is an admission that every single MP, including the Prime Minister, has been missing in action for the people of this country. No. For the first time, now I'm fairly young. So someone who's older than I am will have to tell me if ever in the history of Barbados politics, on the eve of elections, you had senior persons in this country holding high office, economists, coming out and speaking against certain things. One of the highest office is saying that VAT cannot work. the reduction of VAT cannot work. I would have thought that they would have come and say how it could work if they're really and truly about putting more disposable income into the hands of Barbadians. But when they announced the other side that they will increase the reverse tax credit from $1,300 to $1,700, where were the economists asking where would the money come from? When they indicated that they will increase from $25,000 to $50,000 in income tax. Where were the economists asking where the money would come from? As I said before, this current administration has reduced us to begging and believing that all is well. A $300 here and one go leading into elections. A promise of an increase in the reverse tax credit. A promise of appointments. They are using these things as a political gimmick in order to get a vote. Why couldn't we have these things all along? Why were they holding on to these things just before the election? Made you suffer for 4 years and now want to pretend that they care. But Bajans are getting wise. And I'm happy that the free education in this country is not wasted. It's not wasted. I know the struggles that we are having, where we are fighting to determine whether we send our children to school without lunch, without breakfast. And the struggles in Barbados continue to determine whether we will pay this bill or the next. And the struggles continue even at the spouse level. If you lose your loved one, you're also losing income. But if anyone can tell me one piece of legislation that this current administration has brought that was not oppressive, tourism accommodation bill, citizenship bill, think legislation. I'm trying to find one that has brought ease to the people. But I'm here tonight to tell you, and I in no way steal the thunder of Cumbria leader Ralph Thorne as he launches and brings the manifesto to you in Gall Hill in St. John on Saturday. But I tell you, you've seen some of the posts on social media, the Democratic Party page. The DLP will reduce the sewage and garbage tax. We have pledged to return the Barbados Defense Force sports program. There will be a zero tolerance on gun violence. We are not playing with crime. Let the others do it. We will not play with crime. We spoke the other day about not taxing the pensioners. And I can tell you that this DLP will go even further. Where currently, on the NAS, we have a situation where if the spouse dies, you only get, so it's a husband and a wife, or dependents if you're under 25, you only get the survival benefit for one person. So the higher pension is the one that remains. The DLP is saying, no, that is not right. That your legacy should be protected, whereby for 10 years, you will receive your pension and that of your deceased. I said the DLP will provide survival benefit to the person who is living as well as the person who is deceased. That is not currently what subscribes. We are about ensuring that when you lose that income, you do not lose what you have worked so hard for. And that the persons that really paid into the fund benefit. The Democratic Party will address the lack of transparency when it comes to housing solutions. We have a situation in this country where the low-income earners, they're not benefiting from these low-income houses. In fact, some of them don't even qualify. And what we're seeing is that persons of a little better ilk are getting those houses and then renting them out. That is wrong. That is why we have announced on social media, and Comrade Leader Ralph Thorne will expand further, that there will be a pathway of rent to own for those who cannot qualify for a mortgage. This is what the Democratic Party stands for in rebuilding the social infrastructure of this country. The merry man said it. Beautiful, beautiful Barbados, gem of the Caribbean Sea. You'll find rest. You'll find peace in Barbados. And that is our prayer, that in returning this Democratic Party to government, that you will find rest and you will find peace in Barbados. And I thank every single prayer warrior. I've gotten so many phone calls, so many messages from persons I don't even know. You walk the road, they see you in the shirt, they said, we are praying for the Democratic Labour Party 24/7. I heard a reverend at a church in the East who happens to be the brother of a sitting MP declaring that we shall get seats, declaring that absolute power is not good for this country. And I say to you tonight, again, for the merry man, Barbados, I love you. Barbados, I love you. And I'm saying it, I'm not singing it because I really can't sing. Barbados, yes, I love you. Barbados is deep in my soul. So on February 11th, if Barbados is deep in your soul, after February 11th, what happens next? Valentine's Day. And if you love Barbados, if you love this country, I am saying to you, St. Peter, vote Jason Phillips. St. Lucie, vote Ian Griffith. St. Andrew, vote Ramon Goodman. St. James Central, vote Paul Gibson. St. James North, vote Tobias Worrell. St. James South, vote Pedro Graves. St. John, vote Ralph Thorne. Barbados, vote Democratic Labour Party.
Oh, yo, 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 yo.
Eddie is the man,
He is ready and steady,
listening with care.
serving with integrity.
So St. James South, let we go.
Vote Pedro,
Vote Pedro,
vote Pedro,
vote Pedro.
vote Pedro.
Let me hear your applause for that powerful presentation. You'll find rest, you'll find peace in Barbados once the Democratic Labour Party is returned to office on February 11th. That is what we want. That is why we are here. That is why we have to use this opportunity in the north to start the avalanche of Sikhs coming to the Democratic Labour Party from St. Lucie to St. James South, all the way to St. Philip. Sikhs and moving. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you have it within your grasp to make the choice for you, your children, and your grandchildren. So thank you again, Pedro Graves. Our next speaker is a pharmacist, business executive, certified leadership coach with more than 30 years of regional experience. A man who believes that the gold in people is their character, is their selflessness. He believes that gold is in our people. Please welcome Paul Gibson, candidate for St. James Central.
DLP! 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 Putting people first! Putting Barbados first! This is the DLP way of governing. Higher standards, open hands. Barbados first. Respect the minds of Asians. Barbados first. Dignity across the land. Barbados first. What matters to the people?
Good night, comrades. Good night, members of the Democratic Labour Party. Good night, friends. Good night, family. God bless you tonight. Tonight, I'm so excited to be here in this beautiful part of Barbados. We are outside. This is the north. And you know, I wanted just to do something before I started. I wanted to make sure that you look to your left and to your right and tell your neighbor, hello. Make sure you do that before you go any further. Make sure you know who's standing next to you. And look behind you and say, hello, comrades. We outside. Yes, 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 yes. I am so excited to be here because I feel a movement. I feel something happening across the length and breadth of this country, Barbados. I feel an energy like I've never felt before. And I believe that there's a rumbling, there's a stirring across the nation, but it is silent. And indeed, it is dangerous. Sometimes you offer someone a shirt and they look at you and do so and give you a little wink and give you a thumbs up. In other words, leave it as it is. We know what to do. We know where to put our X. Tonight, Barbadians. Tonight, Barbados. Tonight, all of Barbados awoke from their sleep. They are no longer in the what I call the red slumber or the red opium. The red opium has worn off. So people's eyes are open, their ears are open, and their mouths are open. You realize how many people are talking nowadays? You realize how many people around you have something to say about what is going on in this country? You realize that the old people now that would say, they're now saying, listen, man, I went in the supermarket with $400 and came up with 3 bags and no meat.
3 bags and no meat. But one of the things that Barbadians are extremely concerned about is our healthcare system. I recently had the loss of a number of close family members and had opportunity to witness the environment in the hospital and see what was happening there. And you know something? I am very, very concerned. I'm concerned because under the Democratic Labour Party, whether it was Don Volinis, John Boyce, who else do we have? All of our former ministers of health held the standard of health to a very, very high standard. Barbados has 2 stakes that it stands on. One of them is education, because they believe that the country should be educated, and it is something that Errol Walton Barrow was focused on, ensuring that Barbadians were educated. But equally, Barbadians were supposed to be healthy. Some of the best nurses were brought back from overseas to run our healthcare system, our public health system, where things like mosquitoes and water management was of increasing importance to the country, because they knew that a developing country needed clean water and clean environment. We had a situation where the environmental inspectors were highly respected in communities. Nowadays, it is, you see cars parked everywhere full with rats, and people are giving a hard time to our environmental officers. You see, brethren and comrades, health is a key factor to any country. We've always had the vaccination schedules in place across Barbados: measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus as standard vaccines. And then we added hepatitis B and varicella virus vaccines and so on, to make sure that our children and our old people are free. I forgot measles, mumps, and rubella. Free from these common diseases. And any of us that watch CNN right now would realize that they are having a pandemic because they have compromised proper vaccine standards. Barbados, I'm happy to say, still has that one thing in place. But what has happened that is causing a total collapse to our healthcare system is the fact that we have something called a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary healthcare system. The collapse is happening at the primary care system, where diabetes, hypertension, lacerations, foot dressings, minor eye injuries, and that kind of thing are treated at the primary level. So you have primary school, you have secondary school, and you have university. In the medical space, the same principle applies, where you have primary care. And our primary care facilities are found in what's called the polyclinics. And the polyclinic sector has what's called poly, which in the Greek means many, and clinic, which means clinic. So you have many clinics in the polyclinic, consisting of eye care clinics, diabetic clinics, neonatal clinics for ladies that are pregnant. You're having hypertensive clinics, prostate clinics, clinics to deal with HIV and STDs, etc. And what happens is that most proper functioning healthcare systems start with a very strong primary healthcare base. When you have that happening, the whole issue of having feet amputated and people going blind because their eyes are not being examined by the doctors and so on. That is an issue. And these then matriculate up to the tertiary healthcare sector, where the QEH now becomes compressed with a lot of chronic, horrible diseases. And what happens in a situation like what we had only a couple of weeks ago, everybody begins to crash the QEH, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, because, as I said, the primary healthcare system is totally fractured. There are not enough doctors there. There are not enough nurses there. There are not enough resources in terms of administration. And sometimes even the technology is not where it should be. In 2026, you should have integrated technology, pharmacy, medical records, QEH and the primary healthcare sector, the vaccination schedule records, visibility on medical records across the various disciplines. And this has not yet happened in Barbados. As a matter of fact, I am aware that when Minister Don Valinis was the Minister of Health and John Boyce, they were far advanced in the procurement of a medical and electronic medical record system. And if that had gone ahead, in 2026, 8 years later, we would not be having the complaint of people losing their records. Who does that in 2026? You go to the hospital and can't find your records? What is that? You go to the hospital and the medical records department is closed by midday? What is that in 2026? The Democratic Labour Party had a vision of a 24-hour hospital system. It never got to mature, but we were on our way there. And I'm telling you that if we fail to put these fundamental things in place for this country and for our mothers and our fathers and our daughters and our children, the health care in this country will continue to be compromised. It is something that we can ill afford. Comrades, a time is coming in Barbados where the Democratic Labour Party must take the reins of government back from this delinquent Barbados Labour Party. How is it that we can have fractures in education, fractures in health, fractures in transport? When you drive and look at the GPS called Waves now, you know you can put in the potholes in Waves. When you look at Waves now, the whole thing yellow, the whole road yellow, means that everything has potholes. We cannot afford that. And then there's a boast that there's all of this money, all of this 32 weeks of coverage. To what end if you cannot get good health care in Barbados? An $80 million machine, $80,000 machine couldn't be purchased. But Carifesta had any length of money, no end of money. I'm saying that the Democratic Labour Party will be looking at the public health system in Barbados to do an audit from top to bottom and to ensure that our healthcare system gets back to where it was when we were in power, and better, and better. We will ensure that the low turnout, the low morale, first of all, in the hospitals and the polyclinics is addressed. The low morale is because the public sector has a lot of specialists that know what they're doing. But the people at the top fail to listen to our public sector workers. They fail to listen to the police when they give advice. They fail to listen to the nurses. And they fail to listen to the specialists when they speak. We must get back to a place where Barbadians understand that health is wealth. You cannot even afford health properly in Barbados because some people are now balancing a chicken or going to the doctor, balancing health care, medication with paying a bill. There's just balance going on. And this should never be so. Why is it that a person, a 60-year-old or 70-year-old man or woman that has given the best years of their life to this country, why should they now be lying on a hospital floor without a sheet to cover them because there's no sheet? And why should you have to be bringing toilet paper from home and gauze and dressing because they run out? What is that? What sort of backward healthcare system is that? I'm saying that the Democratic Labour Party will correct this madness, will correct this malady, and bring it back to where it needs to be. For your sake, for my sake, for our children's sake, and for our elderly's sake. It is not good enough. At one time, the last audit showed that they were short of about 300 nurses in our healthcare system. Think about that for a minute. Tell your neighbor, 300 nurses. Tell them, 300 nurses. Posts in the government sector, but no warm bodies. Are you going to tell me in the last 8 years that this government could not have embarked on a campaign like what we are going to do and do a significant recruitment of nurses, both local and internationally, where we will bridge the gap until we can train enough Barbadians and have enough qualified persons filling the voids and the emptiness, the empty spaces found in oncology, in neonatology, in the intensive care units, on the wards. And let me explain why it's so important. Nursing was never an easy profession. It was always a bunch of hard-working men and women. And I want you to give them a round of applause tonight. The nursing service across Barbados. They are working extremely hard. But unfortunately, the ratios between patient and nurse is way too low. You have a ward with 24 patients on it. Some of them extremely ill. And you know how many nurses you have? 2. It is literally impossible for a nurse to write 24 care plans for a ward, clean 24 patients, change 24 IVs, and I wouldn't say that, but and actually get a rest or a break during the day so they can recover and do it all over again. It is literally impossible. So we're expecting blood out of water. And I saw that the Barbados Labour Party had a situation where Barbadians were saying, look, you rebuilt the accident and emergency department, but we're spending longer in there. So what they did, they got 2 ministers of health. 2. I think we're one of the first countries in the world that I know that had 2 ministers of health. And people still kept complaining, listen, man, listen. It's not getting no better. It's not getting no better. Come on. We got to do better than this. And it got no better. As a matter of fact, it got worse. And you know what happened? Somebody came riding on a white horse and came to the hospital and spent 5 hours. 5 hours at the hospital, castigating and castrating and demoralizing the staff there as they were speaking to them in the auditorium. After 3 hours, I was told, a couple friends of mine told me, boy, I had to leave in there, boy. I can't take it anymore. I get up because I can't believe that she's talking to us. We give in blood, sweat, and tears. We don't have enough materials. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough nurses. And she can talk to us like that. But we knew why she went there. It was about a photo op. Because 48 hours after, an election was called. It was never about health care. It was never about the people. It was never because she cared. It was because she wanted to be able to say, I visited the hospital in crisis, so that she can call an election in good conscience. And I'm going to tell you something. It is one of the most despicable things as a healthcare professional I've ever seen. I'm telling you. Healthcare is not political. Healthcare, I'm going to say it again, healthcare is not political. Because your mom, your dad, your old great aunt, and the baby that can't breathe with asthma and so on, politics finds no way when somebody's sick. It doesn't have any place at all. And so what I'm saying is, this is about BIM. This is about Barbados. The Democratic Labour Party's campaign and its lasers are focused on one thing and one thing alone. And it's to bring the standard of healthcare, bring the standard of living, bring the standard of crime, and so on to a level that is acceptable. That is what we are about. We are about pushing our hands down and pulling people out and up. People say, don't talk about Earl Barrow. People say that to me. I say to them, but do they stop talking about George Washington? Do they stop talking about Abraham Lincoln? Do they start talking about the White House and the history of America and the founding fathers? Any mature and developed society always remembers its founding fathers and the contribution it made. And tonight we give them all a round of applause. We give them all a round of applause. Sandyford, Barrow, Cattle, Frendel Stewart. We give all of our prime ministers of the Democratic Labour Party because they added value. David Thompson. These men added value to Barbados. The matter of when Albar was in 1966, we knew that little boys, that 9-year-old boys were picking grass and doing what? Cutting cane. And when he drove by in his car, he said, wait, look that doctor there, look that teacher, look that pharmacist there, look that engineer. I am going to get some education into their heads and ensure that they fulfill the vision that I see of them. I will fulfill the vision and the goal that God has placed in their hearts and in their minds. There are scientists, there are nurses, there are administrators, accountants. He was seeing them. But education was the single most thing that was stopping them from reaching that goal. And therein, Elbar created the largest middle class that Barbados has ever seen. And many of us here tonight, driving cars, living in big bungalows and houses, were part of that vision. And Democratic Labour Party family, I want to say one thing to you. Barbados has gotten very selfish. People are thinking about themselves. And it has always been the goal of this party to build a community and to bring somebody along. I want to implore you and encourage you tonight, as a candidate for the St. James Central area, that we restore community to this Democratic Labour Party. We restore community to our communities where we live. And right across the length and breadth of Barbados, we restore togetherness and oneness and taking care of each other and one anotherness. Because that is what a rich, meaningful, living, thriving organism called a country operates best. When people are sharing and loving and committing to each other and looking out for one another. Not getting into the middle class and feeling that you have pedigree and you've arrived. No, 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 no. It's about bringing others up. You must turn around and look. You must look back and bring somebody up with you. It is very, very important. The reason why I'm saying this to you is because when we become the government of Barbados again, this is something that we are going to be striving to do, build community. And when you see gunmen in a community, the community comes together. The police and the soldiers and everybody in that community comes together and say, not about here. Take those guns away from us, from my children, from my family, from my community. We cannot tolerate it. We cannot tolerate it. We all are our own brother's keepers. I want to land the plane by saying this to you tonight. We have a country to restore as the Democratic Labour Party. We have a people to bring up. They're being totally downtrodden. We have to identify and see the values and their giftings and so on. And we have to ensure that they achieve those visions and those goals that God has placed in them, that divine goal. And extract that goal so that all may see it shine in its glory. Brothers and sisters, comrades, members of the Democratic Labour Party, I will close by saying this. I am convinced more than ever, I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have the right team to lead this Barbados. I am convinced more than ever that Jason Phillips here in St. Peter is your man. I am convinced more than ever that our brother Ian Griffith is the right choice made by this party to represent the people of St. Lucie. I am convinced that Tobias Charles will represent St. James North effectively. I heard Ramon Goodman talking to his constituents today on the phone, and I was so proud when the lady was saying, when the lady was finished, she said, I like he. I said, yes, that's what we're talking about. We want to see myself, Paul Gibson, in St. James Central, and I want to say hello to all my St. James Central people that are here tonight. You're welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here in St. Peter celebrating with our comrade. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm feeling something. I'm feeling, you feeling it too? Tell your neighbor you're feeling something, man. Are you feeling it? Give me some music there, man. You feeling it? Well, I want you to just know that it's going to get stronger and stronger and build and build and build and build until February 11th, where we will walk into this parliament and take control and lead Barbados and put it back on the right track under Ralph Thorne, our Prime Minister. God bless you, and God bless this beautiful country, Barbados. Good night. God bless you.
This is the DLP way of governing. Higher standards, open hands.
Barbados First.
Respect the minds of Asians.
Barbados First.
Dignity across the land.
Barbados First.
What matters to the people.
Thank you, Paul Gibson. Let's hear it again for that dynamic presentation. And one thing that he has highlighted is our health care. And if you recall, back in 2008, when the Democratic Labour Party was voted back into office, health care was in the intensive care. And you know the culprit who was the health minister is the same culprit today who has our health care in this situation. And it took the Democratic Labour Party, with all its initiative, with people sitting down and coming up with plans and programs to rescue our healthcare system. And here we are again in 2026 with the same minister who only has a voice to bash parents and give them blame for their incompetence, which we witnessed at Checker Hall. So tonight, this country is calling on all of us and calling on the Democratic Labour Party to rescue healthcare again. So thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, when a national meeting is held in a constituency, it is right that we recognize a son of the soil, someone who has walked these roads for our children, served our families with consistency and care. Our next speaker has given over 26 years of his life to education, teaching across primary, secondary, and special needs classrooms, shaping not just academic results, but character, discipline, and confidence. As an attorney at law, he has represented ordinary Barbadians with fairness and compassion. As a community servant, he has worked faithfully with organizations like the Salvation Army, helping families when no cameras were around. This is a man who don't need gimmicks. This is a man who don't need noise. This is a man of service, empathy, principle. Speightstown, St. Peter, you know that man. You have seen his work all across social media. Please help me welcome your candidate, Jason Phillips, the next representative of St. Peter.
And they saying it loud and plain that they ain't voting for that boy calling Jordan again. The beast controlling the parish, but development we can't see. So this election we changing course, we switching to the DLP. We going with Jason. We going with Jason. We going with Jason. Phillips, he's the man. We going with Jason. We going with Jason. We going with Jason. We done with Jordan. Do we see Colin after the elections? The honest answer is no. Do we see him mixing with the people? That answer is no also. Do we see him at Fisherman's Pub, Brady's Bar or Tommy's Rum Shop, Little Bristol Beach Bar or the Caboose? When Colin pass, he don't stop. The people are very angry and they just ain't hiding their mouth. The years of broken promises and bad roads they talking about. The bees have been very negligent in the constituency. So don't come to our houses begging for votes. Jason is the man for we. We voted for Jason. We voted for Jason. We voted for Jason. Phillips, he is the man. We voted for Jason.
Good night, good people of St. Peter. Good night, residents of Speightstown. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good night. Before I go to my speech, I want to acknowledge a pioneer, a stalwart, a headmistress. She passed recently, but she's not forgotten. And I ask you to bow for a moment of silence in her memory. Thank you. My name is Jason Adrian Phillips. I was born and raised right here in this beautiful parish. I know the roads you travel, the villages you call home, and the quiet struggles many of you carry every single day. I do not need a fancy speech to tell you what is wrong. I see it. I feel it. And I have lived it. I just come from across there, so I know exactly what I'm speaking about. Our roads are riddled with potholes, and they are very dangerous too. Garbage piles up for days, and if you don't believe me, take a stroll through Gill Stars. The garbage collection truck don't go through there anymore, and in the final gap at the end, you can see garbage pile up. After my liar proved me wrong, Barbados Labour Party. Water from our taps is sometimes discolored and unsafe. Young people cannot find steady work. Families cannot afford decent housing. Our clinic is overcrowded. Our elderly feels abandoned. And the cost of living is squeezing the life out of our pockets. This is not how it's supposed to be. Not in St. Peter, not in Barbados. That is why I am running. Not for power, but for a purpose. Not to be seen, but to serve. And I want to share 3 reasons why I have stepped forward. First, St. Peter is the forgotten parish, and Speightstown is a town in name only. For too long, our parish has been pushed to the back of the line. I am running to bring St. Peter back to the center of national development, ensuring communities from Boscobel to Speightstown are not ignored but are invested in. Second, I believe in people first leadership. In other words, with me, it will always be people first and party second. You deserve a representative who is present, accessible, and accountable. I will not hide behind a desk or vanish after the elections. You will see me in your villages and communities, listening, responding, and solving your problems. Third, our young people need hope. Not speeches, not slogans, but real opportunities. Now let me speak plainly about solutions. Our roads and infrastructure. I will push for a structured road rehabilitation program for St. Peter, with priority corridors including Boscobel to Speightstown and Indian Ground to Speightstown. Roads must be properly paved properly drained and properly lit. No more patchwork. No more neglect. In other words, I want to see a smooth road from Saint-Pie Alley in deep Boscobel coming right down to Speightstown. The roads in Indian Ground are deplorable. They are horrible. I want to see a smooth road coming from Indian Ground right to Speightstown. And pray tell me we need some lighting on the roads too. It is ridiculous. It is unconscionable. This government is taking a lot of taxes from you through the fuel tax. Even the guy cutting the grass with a lawnmower or weed whacker, he is paying road taxes. And therefore, there's absolutely no reason why we can't have better roads in this constituency. On garbage and community cleanliness, we will advocate for fixed collection schedules, community monitoring groups, and modern waste management partnerships. Clean communities foster pride, improve health, and create safer neighborhoods. In other words, there was a time that we had garbage collection, treat taxpayers' money as though it is money in their purse, flying here, there, and yonder, and not looking after the good people of St. Peter. Not under my watch. I will move tooth and nail, heaven and earth, to ensure that the good people of St. Peter are looked after. Yes, bet who bet you. And that is why I am asking Barbadians to give me, Barbadians living in St. Peter, to give me a personal vote. Sometimes you have to look past party and look at the issues. On water and utilities, I will demand accountability and investment in water infrastructure so residents receive clean, reliable water. No household should have to question whether their water is safe to drink. On housing and land ownership, let me speak directly to the people of Sitzmans Village. That is where I live. For years, I want the Barbados Labour Party-led government to listen carefully to me, you know. For years, the Barbados Labour Party has promised the residents of Sitzmans Village title deeds, promised to turn long-standing occupants into lawful landowners. 80 homeowners were told they would receive their title deeds by December. Tell me if I'm lying. They had a town hall meeting over by the Bible Berea Baptist Church. The outgoing minister or member of parliament for this constituency, he was there. And he brought down the short guy from St. George with him. And they told the good people of Sitzmans that by December, they would have title deeds. Do they have the title deeds now? The government lied to the people. I was waiting on them. They lied to the good people of Sitzmans Village. And it's not the first time they did it either. It is now February 2026. And what happened? Not one title deed delivered. Instead, only 37 letters were mailed inviting residents to the National Housing Corporation. Who are they trying to fool? We all know land cannot be regularized by letters alone. Land must be properly surveyed, divided into lots, marked with boundaries, roads laid, infrastructure installed, and legal processes completed. Why now? Why suddenly in another election cycle? Because once again, they are dangling a political carrot in front of sensible people. But St. Peter and people from St. Peter, we are not fools. We see through the games. We see through the delays. We see through the lies. Let me be clear. I will never be the fly in the ointment. I want residents to receive what is duly theirs. But this political shenanigan must stop. Under my representation, land regularization will be transparent, time-bound, and properly executed. Not used as a campaign gimmick. I can be honest with you. It is hard to see politicians use people in my neighborhood, knowing full well they don't plan to help the people, at least not in the near future. But give them something to hold on to, a letter. It is hurtful. And I want people in 6 months to take this thing very seriously. It is unconscionable that every election cycle you try to fool Barbadians. What in France you can do with a letter to carry to the National Housing Corporation? You cannot get your title deeds by Wednesday of next week. They haven't cut rows. They haven't give you boundaries. Listen, when I am elected, apart from making sure that you get your houses and so on surveyed and you get your title deeds, I am going to ensure that there's a resource center in 6 months for the young people to have somewhere to go. I'm going to ensure that there's a hard court, that children after school, they can play road tennis, they can play basketball and so on. The representative of St. Peter, he had 2 terms. There is nothing that he can tell you now that you will believe. If you didn't get it done in the first term, we might understand that. If you say you want a second term, you got it. But we are not going to give you a third term because we are not nincompoops. It is time for you to go. You have done little to nothing for the good people of St. Peter. I will tell you that to your face. And that is why when I came here the other night, I didn't come to disturb a meeting. I was just standing over there listening. And you were there standing up. And even people at your meeting came and hugged me up because they can see the difference. I gave out a few hampers during Christmas. And you should hear the criticisms. When I was a teenager, I was going to the Salvation Army just over there. And I used to go in Speightstown by the kettle, and we had a kettle, and I would play my trumpet. And I would raise money for the poor. Not because I had any political aspirations. It's because I care about people. I raised thousands and thousands of dollars. I never was paid a single cent. So when you saw me giving out hampers to people during Christmas, it was from the heart. But you will never understand it, BLP, because you don't know what it means to love people truly. And if you think that I am lying, myself and 2 other people many years ago, Barbados was going through a little crisis, and we went and we cut cane for a week. An entire week. Sometimes you have to let people know these things. And at the end of the week when I got paid, what did I do with my pay packet? Call me a fool. Call me a fool. I gave all of the money in that paycheck to the Salvation Army. And I'm not saying it because I'm looking for any glory. I'm saying it because we in St. Peter have been unfair for far too long. It hurt me. I want people in St. Peter to come out and vote against this Barbados Labour Party. They don't care about you. We open a damn hospital there in Ashton Hall and they close it down. They don't care. Look, the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados took $125 million and opened a hospital there in St. Lucie. A hospital there in St. Lucie. Where is the hospital today? I can speak about that a little later down. But we still have to pay that bill. We still have to pay the $125 million plus interest. St. Peter needs to strengthen its primary health care. I will advocate for expanded services at the clinic, shorter waiting times, and improved care for our seniors, including mobile health visits for those who cannot travel easily. But I will go even further. There's absolutely no reason why the Morris Bayer Polyclinic cannot be upgraded to a mini hospital. It must open 24 hours, 7 days a week. We want an ambulance bay with 3 or 4 ambulances. We want an accident and emergency department. And I want to have about 3 or 4 wards. This mini hospital must cater for all the people in St. Peter, all of the people in St. Lucie, the northwestern tip of St. Andrew, and the northern tip of St. James. Everyone don't have money to get to the other place in St. James. I know of a situation, and if you go on my Instagram, you will see the son of the lady who died talking to me. He's a nurse now. She had an asthma attack right there in Golden Mile. This is a real life situation. She had an asthma attack. And while the ambulance was on its way, she died because she could not hold her breath for 45 minutes. Now tell me, if the Morris Bayer Polyclinic had an ambulance there, that's a stone throw away from Golden Mile, that woman will be alive today. You cannot take Barbadians' taxes and use it for your own luxuries. It is unconscionable and it is wrong. And I ask you, the good people of St. Peter, put me in the House of Assembly. I want to lock horns with her. I'm not afraid of her. I really can't talk the way I want to talk tonight because I'm not feeling well. But I am going to fight tooth and nail for you. I'm going to leave no stone unturned. The guy is tired. Let him go home. Let him get some rest. On jobs and youth opportunities, we will fight for skill training, apprenticeships, digital and technical education, and partnerships with private sector businesses so young people can earn, learn, and build careers right here in St. Peter. And let me put that in plain language for you. St. Peter is both rural and urban. We have a town, but the majority of St. Peter is rural. It is rubbish to say that young people don't want to work. It's a lie. As your representative for St. Peter, I cannot see for the life of me what I can't say to a young woman or young man. Here is 3 or 4 acres of land. Then I give them a grant. There are government agencies that can give a grant for these same young people to put that land into production. But we will not stop there. Vote for me. I am going to make that happen. Then after you get the land and the grant to put it into production, then we have to give you contracts to make it a success. We, as ordinary Barbadians, we must bet who bet us. So therefore, when you get a young man or a young woman who has 3 or 4 acres of land, and he decides to do string beans, and she decides to do lettuce, and a guy in 6 months decides to get fish, what have you, and then they get a contract with the school me service, or the prison, or the Barbados Defense Force, or the QEH. What we are really doing is putting money in the pockets of our people. People like you and you and you. When our young people are busy making money, they have no time to have crime, to commit crime. Most often than not, they are committing crime because they don't have opportunities. So they're on the tree or on the block, like crabs in the bucket, trying to get something to eat. But this government, if you could call it that, this regime, this BLP gang, borrowed the most money ever, almost $10 billion. And $1 billion is 1,000 million. And we can't see value for money. All you need to do, rather than put the people in prison and go feed them in prison, put the money in our people's pocket, give them an opportunity. Am I right? Am I right, St. Peter? On cost of living, I will support policies that reduce the price of basic food items, expand local agriculture, and protect the working poor from being crushed by rising costs. Now let me speak from my heart. And I want you all to listen very carefully. To those who once supported the Democratic Labour Party, and look, we have enough people in St. Peter that can turn this election come the 11th of February. Don't doubt yourself. Sibiliko did it. But you all know what they did. In fact, I can come off a script a bit and I can tell you a secret. And I want this to go far and wide. The voters list is in total shambles. They are trying to undermine the vote. We know that the Bible Berea Baptist Church, that polling station has always been EA2. They have it now as EA1. I look at the St. Peter map and it's still EA2. So what is going on is that they're trying to confuse people. So when people who want to vote at EA2 go to vote on the 11th, they're going to be confused where to vote. Now, if it's an honest mistake, please fix it yesterday. You all think I just be in my bed sleeping. I am on top of things. People, and come election day, I will be on those boxes like white on rice. Because no nonsense is going to happen in St. Peter. I am going to win that election. I'm going to win it fair and square. And no one is going to steal that election from me. I can see the results. I don't mind certain people going in basketball and in the ground today. I am not afraid of you. if I was concerned, the good people of St. Peter would not call me and tell me. All you have to do on that day, and get back on script shortly, is to come out and vote. If we did not have enough people to change this election, we will not have so much gerrymandering in St. Peter. Why the people in Ashton on the right-hand side going up the road are thrown in St. James? Why the people there in Rowview are thrown in St. James? Why the people north of St. Smiths are thrown in St. Lucie? Because they did everything possible to reduce the support for the Democratic Labour Party. But I am telling you, people are going to come out and they're going to vote for me, Jason, Adrian, Phillips, and I am going to give you proper representation. And if you feel I am not doing what I'm supposed to do, hold my feet to the fire. My office is down the road there, upstairs where courts used to be. Find yourself down there and see me. I'm going to have office hours. You will be able to access me. To those who once supported the Democratic Labour Party but became discouraged, I hear you. I understand you. But I ask you to rise again, not for the party, but for your parish, for your children, for your future. To the undecided voter, I respect your independence. I am not asking for blind loyalty. I am asking for an opportunity to earn your trust through my work. And I'm sorry that we didn't have more people down here in red. To the Barbados Labour Party supporters, and I know you're at home watching, I respect your right to your view. But ask yourself honestly, are you better off today than you were years ago? If you are ready for a representative who listens and fights for St. Peter, my door is open. This election is not about red, blue, or yellow. It is about right and wrong. It is about whether St. Peter continues to struggle or finally moves forward. I will not pretend to have every answer. But I promise you this. I will work. I will listen. I will fight. And I will never stop standing for you. In fact, I will go a little further. I told the next Prime Minister of Barbados, Mr. Thorne, that if the Democratic Labour Party policies does not align with the people of St. Peter, I will always stand with the people of St. Peter. And I do not mix words when it comes to that. The Democratic Labour Party cannot put me in Parliament. It is the people of St. Peter. And it's the people of St. Peter I will represent. If you observe the outgoing member of Parliament for St. Peter, he always toe party lines. He don't care about the people of St. Peter. He care about Auntie. St. Peter, your voices mattered. Your vote matters. Your future matters. Walk with me. Stand with me. Vote for me when the time comes. I am Jason Phillips. I am ready to serve you. Thank you, St. Peter.
The people of St. Peter talking, and they saying it loud and plain, that they ain't voting for that boy calling Jordan again. The beast controlling the parish, but development...
Do you hear the passion? Do you hear the commitment? Do you hear a man that wants to represent this constituency? If you have heard him as I've heard him, the passion in his voice, it gave me goosebumps. And in 2022, I stood where he stood. And if you are from St. Peter and you have said this, and you're saying this in 2026, we don't see, we don't hear he, we can't get to Colin Jordan. If you are saying that today as you said it in 26, you need to vote Jason Phillips as the next representative for the constituency of St. Peter. And it has become so bad to keep us sane and to understand the representation that we have had over the last 7.5 years. You know what they say? We don't see, we don't hear, but rest assured, he can come and see how you're doing at your funeral. St. Lucie, are you here? St. Lucie. Our next speaker is known for compassion, dignity, and service. A respected funeral director, businessman, and community leader with deep roots in civic and sporting life. And he has a political funeral on February 11th. Somebody needs to be put to rest. Welcome Ian Griffith,
DLP!
candidate for St. Lucie.
DLP! Putting people first! Putting Barbados first! This is the DLP way of governing. Higher standards, open hands.
Barbados First.
Respect the minds of Asians.
Barbados First.
Dignity across the land.
Barbados First.
What matters to the people guides every step we take. Country before convenience, this is the pledge we make.
DLP puts you first. DLP puts home first.
Hey!
Puts Bajans first. Always first. Puts the country first. DLP puts Barbados first.
Good night, good night. Family, brothers and sisters of the North, especially special greetings to those people of St. Lucie. Now I begin with a reference to the North, because that is where my ties especially lies, in St. Lucie. Born and bred and raised under the hill in Half Moon Fort. Rode and drove all the areas of St. Lucie and St. Peter too. I say that to say this. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. This is where I live. This is where I work. And I will never, never, never leave this unless Al Shaddai say so. So tonight, we have to frame this discussion within the broader national context. The northern parishes of Barbados, including St. Peter, St. Andrew, and St. Lucie occupy a place of profound historical, cultural, and strategic importance in this national story. These parishes are among the oldest settled areas of this island, shaped by agriculture, maritime activity, faith communities, and generations of working Barbadians whose labor and sacrifice helped to build this country. They are the custodians of significant heritage sites such as Morgan Lewis, Farley Hill, and Animal Flower Cave. Steeped in rural traditions and strong community networks that continue to anchor our national identity. Yet, despite their contribution to Barbados development, these northern parishes have too often been the brunt of infrastructural neglect. When basic services failed in these communities, it is not merely a local inconvenience, it is a national failure. One that undermines our commitment to balanced development and equal dignity for all Barbadians. It is my commitment to bring in balanced and inclusive development to the north, and in particular St. Lucie, that has led me down this path of representation. I am determined to uplift, and I am determined to restore pride and purpose to our constituency. St. Lucie has produced and nurtured leaders in politics, sports, faith, and many in public life. Proof that rural Barbados has never lacked talent or the contribution, only lacking sustained investment. In order to move forward, we must acknowledge where we came from and where we are now. And tonight, I do not intend to spend much time critiquing the other side, because you, the people of St. Lucie, have lived in neglect and disrespect for 7+ years. We gather in thoughts and idea forums, making promises that have never been fulfilled. Small businesses that are the backbone of every community have not been supported. In fact, there are more closing than opening. Right here in Speightstown, you bring a town alive at night when business spaces and store owners dying by the day. Roads that have been poorly done just for an election gimmick to appease your base. A basic lack of housing and support for those who badly need a place to call home. The representative of this parish of St. Lucie only happens to come out when there's a photo op or to attend funerals. Like a good friend, an old lady friend of mine, told me one day he wants to compete with me because he seems to be the minister of funerals. He does not oversee or investigate any projects in St. Lucie. Look at those empty houses in Coconut Hall, not even a curtain or a mat at the door to say welcome home. Or a failed bridge project there in Pike Corner, and he has the audacity to say that he goes to church and we're next door to where he lives, and he cannot see that that bridge
is a failed project. But this DLP government, when we become power in February 11th, we will review that project and renew it to what it should be. What he does is not leadership. It is downright neglect. He does not advocate. He does not follow up. And I am sure many persons and heads of department in places of government will see a letter come to him and probably throw it in the basket or not even reply because he has no strength in his voice, not in the letters that he carries. Correct. The people of St. Lucie deserve better. Where is his voice in Parliament? A place where men and women gather to discuss. That sacred place, which serves as a social shock absorber. That place in Parliament, where men and women come together to speak and guide the will of the people who put them there. Where is his voice? I say to you, my friends, that a representative must be a bridge, not a barrier. So tonight I tell you, I, Ian Richard Griffith, will be that bridge. Leadership, like I said, is not a photo opportunity. I believe leadership is service. I will be there when the cameras are gone. I will be there walking the lengths and breadths of St. Lucie, listening to you and addressing your concerns before they come crisis. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to tell you how many crises are plaguing St. Lucie. All because of government that refuses to listen and sacrifice its people at the altar of expedience, and ignorant. And on February 11th, they will see that the people of St. Lucie are not ignorant, they're not stupid, and we will rise against those gimmicks. Now, it is mind-boggling. So let me get down to a little business. In 2017, there was an improved and a contract awarded to a local firm for a desalination plant at Harrison's Point. You know where that medical facility, well, where it is rented. There was a awarded contract approved for a 6 million gallons of water per day desalination plant. Do you know what is 6 million gallons of water per day? Six million gallons of water per day. Right here. Right here. The facts are right here. The private-public partnership contract for the design and construction, financing and operation of this plant has been awarded to form a joint venture with another company. This DLP government put that in place in 2017 with a plan that was being discussed a year before in 2016. And when people come and tell you that this DLP government did nothing, you can tell them, show me the proof. This is the part of the proof. At a cost of $58 million plus, this BLP government, when they came into power in 2018, scratched this project. And you can tell me they have a care for the people of St. Lucie? How can you look at the people of St. Lucie now? How can the representative of St. Lucie look at the people while going around canvassing? What he used to tell them? That he cared? That he got in the House of Parliament and begged for an apology that he has not even received? 6 million gallons a day of water. You know what that means? Had this project has proceeded, 2 critical issues would have been resolved for the people of the North generally and the people of St. Lucie specifically. First and foremost, there would have been a drastic improvement in the actual supply of water. Daily outages would have been a memory of the past. Secondly, the water would have been clear and devoid of odor and sediment. You would have been able to wash your clothes with water from the pipe, prepare meals with water from the pipe, bathe with water from the pipe. And you would have not have to wait till a woman tell you disrespectfully what I'm to do, wiggle my nose and say, let there be pipe. You would have not had to face that. But the election time ran up. And at the 11th hour, they suddenly have a solution for a desalination plant. Let them tell you how many gallons it's going to produce. Is it going to help the situation? Ask them if it's going to help the situation in St. Lucie. You said it, not me. But let me ask you, how long is too long? To wait for the Barbados Water Authority to insist that the water is safe, but resolutely refuse to give the results when they tell you the water is safe. Somebody can tell you something is safe and can't give you some result. You know, on packages nowadays, you have to declare the ingredients. You have to declare the chemical content of what you put on your skin, of what you put in your mouth. Let the Barbados Water Authority tell you. They can't do that. It'd be a risk doing that. But I can tell you this. I took it upon myself because it bothered me. Because for years I've seen this water brown. I don't even use it at my place. 2 samples were taken. 2 samples. One on the western side of St. Lucie, and one on the eastern side of St. Lucie. 2 samples. And you know what? I don't know if there's any doctors in the house tonight. But these 2 samples both tested positive for coliforms. Enterococci, to be exact. Y'all can go home and look it up, or take out your phones and tablets and Google it. Enterococci. The presence of enterococci in drinking water is a major problem. When I consulted with the technical people on water, and I was told, I don't know what you're going to do with these results, Mr. Griffith, but these are some of the highest results I've seen on this side of the Caribbean. This is not Haiti. We are in Barbados. Why should we be having this problem? And yet, you can have an entity like Barbados Water Authority telling you the water is safe. Bring the results to challenge this. Bring them. And where is the representative? Where is the representative? maybe we will have to really spell out the word enterococcii for him to understand what that means. So I asked the government and soon to be the replaced representative, soon to be replaced, what is the price tag attached to the heads of men and women and children of St. Lucie? What is the price tag? This is no political gimmick. This is no political gain. This is a health issue. This is an issue for the basic human rights of every human in the world to have clean water to drink and live by. And this is why this DLP-led government, this team, and note well, you can spell the word team. The word team begins with T, and team begins with Thorne. This DLP team is needed because above and beyond the neglect is the broken trust in our institutions. Look at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. So I'm here to say to you, come February 11th, this will be rectified. This next DLP government will not only revert to the original plan to install a desalination plant, but the government will ensure that a proper and adequate compensation to householders. When the FTC said nobody from St. Lucie has come forward, I took it upon myself to speak to them. And all they need is the complaints. When I asked you, how do you mean complaints in the group? No, Mr. Griffith. Let every household bring a complaint, and we will investigate it, and we will ensure that the people of St. Lucie are compensated for the years of neglect that they went through. I will be spearheading a constituency-wide weekly distribution of bottled water. And we will set up even more community tanks. And we will commit a monthly monitoring and publishing of water quality tests, especially in those reservoirs. Mind you, the reservoirs are very important. These water tanks that you see out there are very important, and they have to be inspected, and they have to be cleaned. When you talk about the North, you cannot just conclude that this is just a St. Lucie thing, but this is a St. Peter thing, this is a St. Andrew thing. This DLP government, and for me, for sure, will develop and upgrade training facilities for youths and elderly, clubs and sporting programs across the constituency, because discipline, teamwork, and opportunity keep our youths focused and hopeful. And not just that, but it keeps them from being tempted to a life of crime. A life of crime among the youths that are under 18 years old. Crime that is about to cripple this country. We speak about the tourism product. We build hotels and villas day by day, week by week, month by month. But have people being killed in the same capacity, week by week, month by month. Do you think tourists will want to come here when they get whiff of this kind of information that is happening in Barbados? Do you think that this tourism product that we speak so highly of will not be able to sustain itself if we continue and do nothing with this crime situation? What will we do when this tourism begins to fail? What will we do when the life of crime and the underground world start to take over our communities? Are we going to only shut up our windows late at night or put barriers on our windows and say, Lord, help us? It is time you wake up, people. It is time you take off the blinders and stop drinking the red Kool-Aid and look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself enough is enough. Agricultural development. I'm amazed to see the amount of imports. You can look at any statistical information and see the import bill that we have here in Barbados, especially in agriculture. St. Lucie have land that they can produce, and we will be working with farmers to develop agriculture, to improve crop production, and develop market centers so food grown in St. Lucie can feed Barbados. We'll ensure that people in Barbados, that business places in Barbados, that the hospitality places in Barbados seek first to provide, to get their food from local farmers. Because we cannot sustain ourselves with this import bill. Do not be fooled. Open your eyes. Reading and literacy program. I don't know how many of you take an interest in this subject. We have boasted over the years, many years, of our high literacy in Barbados. But yet still, for those young children, 4 years old, going into culminate exam, if they have any reading deficiencies, they have to wait almost a year and a half, sometimes 2, at the Child Development Center before they can be assessed. And yet they have to go into a common entrance exam and fail and pass and try to pass. And when they fail the common entrance exam, or when they pass for lower schools, they are deemed to be losers. We cannot have that anymore. So we need to have reading and literacy programs, not just a tablet in somebody's hand and call it education. Countries around the world like Switzerland, Sweden, and France have adopted policies to go back to reading. These are the policies that this Democratic Labour Party will implement, because our children are our future. My friends, we will develop community support groups. This is a program that will seek to help elderly and challenged people. We have nurses retired. We have retired social workers that can come aboard this campaign and develop these community support groups. This is one of the pilot campaigns that I will ensure that happens in St. Lucie, because we have too many elderly people at home by themselves. We have too many challenged people at home by themselves. A National Assistance Board cannot do it all. They cannot do it all. So all this, my friends, is not theory. This is work. And this Democratic Labour Party is here to do the work. So this is why on February 11th, your vote, your support will begin this road to rebuilding St. Lucie. And to the rest of Barbados, the same. Your vote, your support will begin the rebuilding of this Barbados to make a better and inclusive governance and a fairer Barbados, not for one, not for privilege, not for friends, but a fairer Barbados for all. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your listening ear.
I'm saying, as much as I would like to wiggle my nose and say let there be pipe, it takes time for them to lay pipe. Mom, like she think we stupid or we bewitched. So this time, we gon' switch. Phillips got revex. Cannot get re-X. VX, VX. Phillips got VVEX, VVEX, VVEX. Cannot get VX, VX, VX. We gon' shift to Griff, we gon' shift to Griff, we gon' shift, 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 shift to Griff, we gon' shift to Griff, we gon' shift to Griff.
Look at your nose and lay some pipe. Really. And you know what was insulting to the people of St. Lucie? That the Prime Minister got up on a stage in Checker Hall and said to us, for all of the world, the water ain't so brown. But I want her to listen to the definition of water. Let me remind her, it is a clear, colorless, odorless, and tasteless substance. Clear, colorless, odorless, tasteless substance. Anything brown in there? Not water. Tonight, our next speaker is a woman of resilience, courage, unwavering advocacy for the people of Barbados. She is a criminologist and the chairperson of the Democratic Labour Party's Commission on Crime, producing the solution-based blueprint to rescue this nation. A national voice who speaks with clarity and conviction. Speightstown, St. Peter, please join with me and show appreciation for our next speaker, Miss Verla De Peiza.
Let me deal with this one time. All this mess, all these lies, all these lies. Who go confess? Rid of them. Fire! We sticking with Ralphie to clean up this mess. Money gone. Who go confess?
Good night, St. Peter. Good night to the north of the island. Special mention always for the people of St. Lucie. That is not to say that there is not in my heart the entire country of Barbados, but as one of our poets would say, my neighbor. Some will say that there's no difference between the two main parties. For me, the fundamental difference is how we understand our role in government towards people. I listened because you can't counteract if you haven't heard. And I watched as every single handout you could think of was thrown at the people of Barbados in the hopes that something would stick. And I speak of the manifesto of the Barbados Labour Party. Now, it sounds good, but I want to go through a few of them with you and explain to you the difference for the Democratic Labour Party. This is because there is a difference between a handout and a handout. I want you to remember that not quite a year ago, and not too far from here, there was a by-election. But just before the by-election, and before we knew that there was going to be one, we had a budget which spoke of $300 for every citizen. And it sounded great. It sounded wonderful. But those of you who go to the supermarket would know that you rested that down in one of those before it was warm in your pocket. it was a handout. That does not help you pass that one moment. It's a handout. I listened and watched, and then I went and looked for it and read. And I have to ask some questions. What do you mean when you speak of the Child Wealth Fund? Because you see, pretty phrases got us where we are today. And somebody told you to watch. But on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party, I want you to think, not watch. So when you are told of a child wealth fund, I want you to ask, how you paying for this? And I don't mean how you financing it. I want to know, how are you paying for this? And if you can't get a straight answer, ask them a straight question. Will you be issuing bonds in order to pay for that child wealth fund? Because again, a fundamental difference. First of all, the pain visited in 2019 on the people of Barbados as bonds were devalued in this country remains in the minds of ordinary Barbadians. And if it is that the Child Wealth Fund is to be funded by bonds, then you need them to explain to you the safeguards that they're going to put on it. Don't just give me a handout. Don't just give me the pretty talk. You tell me how you plan to get it done. This is not the era of just talking. And this is not the era of just watching. I asked that question because I know we have several funds already, and they're managed by the National Insurance Scheme. But I see that this one is going to be managed privately. So we need to ask questions. Who you mean? Who you mean will be managing this? And I ask this because I want you all to remember that a special fund was put together in this country during COVID, and who has accounted to you for that? We heard all about the fiasco with vaccines. We were told all manner of fluff. But I remember a fund that was set up, and we have had no accountability on that. So when you tell me that you have a child wealth fund, and you can't tell me how you are doing it, if you are having bonds, if it is money, you're clearly not putting it in National Insurance Fund because you have not said so. It's going to be privately funded. You need to be asking these questions when people is in some other color besides this one, not at your door. Because those are fundamental issues. Don't just come with the pretty talk, because we are not anymore looking for handouts in this country. We want our people to get a hand up. And another word before I move off of that point. Bonds can be a form of printing money. I am painfully aware that as it stands right now, the government of Barbados pays some of its debts in bonds. The most painful of those is when you, ordinary Barbadians, get into accidents in government institutions and you get a settlement. You have to accept it over a 42-month period, getting a little pittance, because it is a bond issue. So if it is that child wealth fund is going to be linked to bonds, north of Barbados, south of Barbados, the middle, the east, and the west, tell them no, thank you very much. At this point in Barbados, we have to be about self-respect. And anybody that is not respecting you, you need to show them the door. And that is one. I've coursed through, and I see a couple references to something called BERT 3.0. Anybody remember BERT 1.0? Yes. Did you like that? No. Anybody remember BERT 2.0? No. Did you like that? No. What about BERT 3.0 should you be buying into? Especially since they keep speaking about it in these nebulous terms and they just mention it like it is some airy-fairy idea. But you, the people of Barbados, need to understand that anything following on from BERT 1 and BERT 2, first of all, has to mean that they failed, and they haven't told you that. And secondly, that more pain is about to be visited on this country. And then I read about how they have brought down the cost of living in this country. I have a problem with gaslighting. All of us live in this country, and we know the pain that we feel on a daily. I am not talking about the 1% of friends and family that seem to be getting through in this country. I am talking about the ordinary Barbadians that the Democratic Labour Party on a consistent basis, come hell or high water, will stand up and speak on behalf of. And you know the pain that you are feeling. What is BERT 3.0? I can't tell you because I don't know. And I have read it, and I still can't tell you what it is because they keep speaking about it in these soft, fluffy terms. But I want you to ask them for specifics because you watch them twice. You watch them twice and you get your eye poke out. This is not the time for watching. This is the time for thinking, because people of Barbados, you do not want handouts. You want a government that will help you up. And the Democratic Labour Party has every intention again of bringing respect back to the people of Barbados. That is important. That is what you rest an X next. We need in this country, in this election, like no other, to be asking for specifics. Don't just hear them out. Because as they are flinging their hands left, right, and center with the giveaways, thank you very much for carrying down the price of gas, but good Lord have mercy, don't carry it back up on the 12th, I beg you. Because that is what we have been visited with for years. When we can see on the international market the price of oil falling, when we can look across the water on a clear day and see that our neighbors who get their oil where we get ours from can sell their petrol products cheaper than we have them here, and we take account of the fact that we have landing duties and we have VAT and we have customs duties and we have that dreaded fuel tax and everything else, including the top up in profit for the gas stations, heavily taxed. We need to be asking for specifics. And I challenge the economists in this country who were swift to respond and retort when the Democratic Labour Party said that it is much better to allow a man to manage his own money by giving a decrease in VAT, which was promised for years, that allows you to manage your own pocket And they said, oh, that's going to cost a lot. So what you think increasing salaries, giving the wealth fund, all the monies for the pension, all of those have costs. So if you are satisfied that that can work, why can't it be you managing your own money because you get to keep more of it in your pocket? But I want to add a word of caution. Any of the provisions will not work and have any benefit if we continue only to pay attention to one money earner in this country. I may well be the only person who intends to fully embrace the lost decade conversation, especially since the other side has now wholesale adopted the architects of it as far as they are concerned. I can talk all about it as much as I like. When in that period, we asked, first of all, for some constraint. It was because we understood the pain that would follow going on the international market to borrow more. I don't think it is an exaggeration for me to say that in the invisible 8 years that followed, we have gone and borrowed from Hurrah and the crew. And for us, a small nation, depending on a fickle revenue resource, is not sustainable. If we learn nothing else in the COVID period, we must have learned that lesson. They got a few others, but let's learn that one. And it has to be that we spend time building out industry in this country in a meaningful way. And it will have a knock-on effect all around. I want to speak tonight to just one of those because of time constraints. When during the last administration that they called the lost decade, they kept a lot of noise about sewage on the streets of Christchurch, a section of Christchurch. But from the time they came to office until literally yesterday, more than 300 of our young people's blood has shed on the streets across the length and breadth of Barbados. The Democratic Labour Party, in response, put a commission of crime together that I was humbled when asked to lead. And I took it seriously, and so did my team. Only one person did not pull their weight. I am not here to out a fella. Because the end result was solid and presented to the country. And so nervous and frantic were they that they put together, I can't remember the name because nobody knows anything about it except that its chairman resigned spectacularly on the front page of our newspaper. But the reason that crime remains a serious issue for the Democratic Labour Party is because we understand that the social answers to redress a runaway crime situation lie in how we put into the hearts and minds of our people the thought that they can. Not a handout, but a hand up. When you have purpose in your life, when you have something meaningful to do, as the old people will say, Satan is fine work for idle hands to do. And so it is important as a national initiative for the saving of, and the reason is that we need the fiscal space in order to develop other industries so that there is job creation and wealth creation, and that pride that we write about and speak about can be put into action for our people and by our people. It is the mission of the Democratic Labour Party, come hell or high water, to ensure that our people get back their decency. And tonight on the platform of the Democratic Labour Party, in support of all the candidates in the North, all marching in unison behind our leader, Ralph Thorne. And I want to pause. You're supposed to clap for that, because all across the country you want to hear how bad he is, how he had to leave. And the best one for me was at the nomination meeting in the city when I heard one on the other side say he wasn't a team player, so he had to go. And I almost fell off my chair because, well, those of us in here know what we had to put up with. But the serious position is that a Democratic Labour Party is committed to the diversification of this economy. Don't take my word for it. Look at that lost decade that they ranted and raved about across this country, and see how we developed the renewable energy industry, not to give. Is our leader with us? I will take that pause. We'll give him a minute to settle. When last you entrusted the Democratic Labour Party with the leadership of this country, we developed the renewable energy industry. Hear the difference. We didn't ask anybody to have a 5-acre plot of land to plant any solar voltaic systems. We were interested in developing it for you, on your house, on your businesses, because we understood how that would help you. A completely different focus. We're not handing out, we're helping up. That is the difference. And we didn't need any fancy titles. We need to be serious about our agriculture. We have to first feed ourselves, and then we can talk about building it out as an industry for export. But part of the bringing down of our cost of living is to retrain our palates to eat what we grow here. And if we consider that right now we are the second nation in the world with centenarians. They didn't get there eating greasy food, and they didn't get there with sedentary jobs. They got there by getting up early in the morning and working hard in agriculture. And it cannot be that we ever disgrace, disregard, or in any way make secondary agriculture in this country. And I have to digress one more time and just speak about the disgraceful way that our sugar industry has been treated under this administration. What you mean that you can't finish that deal? It is bought with your money from the credit unions. This is your hand up. And a government can't finish a deal dealing with poor people money, but every day you can see deal after deal going up around here that dealing with big people pockets. No, it has to stop. This is the time, the 11th of February, when our people get a voice again. Thank you for calling it early. 3 elections in 8 years. 3 elections in 8 years. And all that does is give you the opportunity to redress that situation. And on the 11th of February, I urge you, thinking about you, but more importantly, thinking about your nation and thinking about your families and your children and the promises that have been broken. I want you to think about them too. Pick up that covenant of hope and read it from cover to cover and mark an X next to every single one of the hopeless promises that you had. And as you practice marking your X, when you go in that box on the 11th of February, you find your candidate for the Democratic Labour Party, and that is where you mark your last X in this campaign to bring change, meaningful change to this country, for you, for your people, and I thank you.
One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. We all in this with Ralphie.
Thank you, Verla. Now you see why the PM ran all around St. Lucie in 22. You see why? And she now running up in St. John. I am a sports person. And we sports persons can stand on our own. Some housekeeping before we move on. I just want to acknowledge some candidates here who have come to support us. Jamal Sandiford, St. Michael Northeast. Neil Marshall all the way from St. Phillips South. Quincy Jones from Christchurch East Central. Charles Worrell, St. James North. Rolrick Hines, St. Thomas. And I understand that the former leader of the opposition, Mr. Jovis Averly, was somewhere in the audience tonight. Domery, my colleague, where are you? Welcome to St. Peter and Speightstown. Dale Rowe, the man for the city. And since you're all here, candidates, some more housekeeping. Please collect your list of special voters from Andrew right behind this tent before you go. Now you know that this election is very serious. Especially for us in the North. We have been disrespected too long. I was born in St. Lucie and spent most of my teenage years in St. Peter. And nothing has changed, really. So this election, we have been given a chance to support the candidates in especially St. Lucie and St. Peter from the Democratic Labour Party. If you do the same thing, the same way, all the time, you're going to get the same result. And if we vote the same way, all the time, what you expect? Time for change. Time for the Democratic Labour Party in the North. Speightstown, we are living it in a serious moment. This election is not about personalities. It is about country. If you believe that Barbados must come before politics, I want you to stand where you are. Please stand up where you are with me. Because tonight I want you to say with me, Barbados first. Barbados first. Barbados first. In moments, the man entrusted with leading this movement will step on this stage. A King's Counsel, a parliamentarian, a defender of constitutional order. Speightstown, St. Peter, Barbados, please rise and welcome the leader of the opposition and the political leader of the Democratic Labour Party and the next Prime Minister of Barbados, Mr. Ralph Thorne.
We proud. Wave your flag. Wave your flag. Lift your hand. Time to build back with sweet land. Time to build back with sweet land. Rolling with Ralphie. Hey. Rolling with the tapey. Hey. Rolling with Ralphie. Hey. Rolling with the tapey. Hey. The turbo ready, spirit bright. We rev it on making right. Stand up down, it's gonna free. Rolling with Ralphie, DAP. Rolling with Ralphie. Rolling with the DAP. Yeah, one love, one love, one family. Rolling with the people of this country. Father, please, this country in need. Bless the hands that plant the seed. We rolling, rolling to victory. Rolling with Ralphie and the DLP. Rolling with Ralphie, DLP. We can rise, we can rebuild. Keeping the promise that must be fulfilled. Together strong unity. Rolling with Ralphie, DLP. Rolling with Ralphie. Rolling with the DLP. Yeah, we rolling, rolling to victory. Rolling with Ralphie and the DLP. No more lies, no more spin. This time legends can win. Stand together proudly. Rolling with Ralphie, DLP. The youth go lead, watch and see. Future bright like the morning sea. Energy, high destiny. Rolling with Ralphie, DLP. Roll on down. Rough strong. Together we belong. Hands up high, wave the flag. This is we time. Bajans glad. Who we rolling with? Ralphie. Who we standing with? DLP. What we fighting for? Unity. Bajans rise in harmony. Rolling with Ralphie, DLP. Rolling with Ralphie. Rolling with the DLP. Yeah, one heart, one love, one family. Rolling with the people of this country. Father, please, this country in need. Guide we path as we plant this seed. We rolling, rolling to victory. Rolling with Ralphie and the DLP.
Ralph Thorne. All candidates, please remember to go to the back of the tent. Thank you very much for that warm welcome, our political leader, my friend.
Thank you, Chairman Alwyn. Thank you, Verla, and thank you all of the speakers who gather here tonight in this great Speightstown. A few nights ago, I met a young man. His name is, he will tell you his name. Met him quite by accident. Came onto the platform and there he was. And after meeting him, I discovered that we have a few things in common. That when I was 11, I was at a school that he is now at. It is sentimental. I don't mind saying that. And Josiah made a speech in Oystons. And Josiah is going to make that speech in Speightstown. Little Josiah, welcome.
Good night. My name is Josiah. I am 11 years old. And when you vote for the children of Barbados.
Josiah, those are the moments that we will come to cherish and remember. And Josiah's mom has lent him to this exercise in contrast with what the other people have been doing with children. And this Democratic Labour Party presents to you Josiah and presents to you the children of Barbados in a very wholesome way. Josiah is teaching the Barbados Labour Party how we should be treating children with dignity, respect, and with the instinct that we should always protect our children and that we should not expose our children to abuse. The children are here for us to protect them, and this Democratic Labour Party will continue to be the party that protects the children, the party that protects the elderly. The two most vulnerable groups in the society are always the very young and the very old. So Josiah, I want to say thanks to you. Yes, he goes to Harrison College. Josiah, we celebrate you. And we celebrate you as a leader in your school, a leader in your village. And one day, whatever you do, whatever you choose to do in life, you will remember that you have been given the responsibility of leadership. But please wake up early tomorrow and get to school. And while you are applauding, please applaud Josiah and celebrate Josiah. And in advance, tell Josiah happy birthday. On Saturday, it's Josiah's birthday. Happy birthday, Josiah. Thank you, Josiah. Thank you, Speightstown. Thank you, all of the speakers. Thank you to those who have carried the standard in St. Peter. Thank you. Thank you, Ian Griffith of St. Lucie. Jason Phillips. And I said before that Jason is not a social media sensation. Jason's work, Jason's fantastic work is merely being reflected on social media. And nothing that you see on social media has been invented. As the young people say, he is real. And he is the best man for this job of representation of this great parish of St. Peter. And so is Ian Griffith. Two sons of the soil, and Ian is a son of the soil of St. Lucie. And this great Democratic Labour Party is so well represented in this northern portion of the island. And we will not come here and forget the outstanding work of that quiet young man called Ramon Goodman in the parish of St. Andrew. Three of the northern parishes so well represented. And they will represent these northern parishes in the Parliament of Barbados. I'm absolutely certain of that. They bring quality. They have not been absent one day. These men have not been absent from the constituency since it was declared that they would be the representatives of this great Democratic Labour Party. Tonight I want to focus on policy because you really can't bring people out at this hour of the night for entertainment, and you know where to go if you want entertainment. And it is not a meeting of the Democratic Labour Party. We have come to establish and to re-establish that relationship with the people of Barbados, because the future of this country rests much in this election. What we say, what we promise, how we commit to young Josiah, and how we commit to young people in this country, and how we commit to continued protection of the elderly in this country. This is not a place of entertainment. This is a place of truth. And this is a place in which we seek justice, and you do not locate justice unless you travel the hard road of truth. Sometimes truth is so difficult to speak because it is harsh and it brings the harsh reality of life home to people. But you have to speak it. You have to speak it if you want to make progress. So that tonight I've come to discuss policy with the people in the north. We have come to discuss governmental policy. Since we feel satisfied that it is the intention of the majority of people in Barbados that the Democratic Labour Party should become the next government in Barbados. I begin with an anecdote. Just on my way here tonight, coming down the ABC highway in the section just down from the Garfield Sobers roundabout, these bright lights shone into the car. And you looked up and you saw the heavy equipment of road repair machinery. Tonight at 11:15, the government is repairing the stretch of highway between the Garfield Sobers roundabout and I think the Ministry of Agriculture. Tonight at 11:15. As we say, the 11th hour. And in many ways, this road repair is taking place at the 11th hour. At the hour when time is running out on this government. But we know that that is not road works. We know that that is political works. And we know that this government considers every project that is done for the benefit of the people of this country, they regard that as political work. And that is not a good government. This government was given by you 5 years to do road works, to do all the works that are supposed to be done by a government. And at this 11th hour, at this 11:15 hour, on this night, they are now doing road works along the ABC highway. And I repeat, it is political work. It is work designed to capture votes in a few days from now. This government, by its practice, I beg your pardon, of transfiguring genuine infrastructural works into political works, has demonstrated that they have lost their credibility. They have lost their right to govern. Trust has gone. And they are so contemptuous of the intelligence of people in Barbados that they do this. And they do this and believe that we cannot recognize it. But not only have we come here tonight to expose them, but the majority of time will be spent here not exposing them because you know them. But the majority of time will be spent on this platform tonight saying to you what this great Democratic Labour Party intends to do. We come tonight to tell you what will be our policy. And this government functions like the three-card men in town. Every government policy, every government project is akin to a Ponzi scheme, a political Ponzi scheme. A scheme designed to dupe, to fool, to mislead the people of Barbados. Do the work and do it with genuineness. Do not do physical work. Do not do infrastructural work merely as a means of capturing votes. And that is wrong. It insults the intelligence of the people of Barbados. Everything is a quick fix. You remember the three-card men that used to stand in Broad Street, Swan Street, and Bridge Street. This government has become a three-card man. Everything is a trick. This is a three-card government. This is a Ponzi scheme government. But I want to tell you what this great Democratic Labour Party proposes to do for the people of Barbados now. They have indicated to you quite clearly that they are not committed to tax relief. We have told the people of Barbados, even in advance of the launch of our manifesto, that we consider it critically important that the burden of taxation must be removed from the poor and the middle in this country. This country will not progress until the poor and the middle will have their spending power enhanced. We believe that. And we believe that tax relief in the form of VAT must be offered to the people of Barbados. It must be done. And I said before, and I'm going to say it again as a way of reminder to you, because I'm not reminding the government about anything now. I remind you that when this government came to office in 2018, it promised to lower VAT. And it has never done it. And we know that VAT must be lowered. It must be. And now they're saying to you that VAT, the lowering of VAT, the reduction of VAT, is not a strategy that they intend to pursue, that it will do nothing. If it will do nothing, we ask them, why did they create a VAT-free basket of goods? They have no credibility on this issue. If VAT is not a measure that is intended to benefit the people of Barbados, why did they create a basket of goods that were free of VAT? That is their own admission to you that VAT relief is required in this country. But for some reason, they do not wish to go further. And this Democratic Labour Party will go further. And this Democratic Labour Party is committed to the fiscal policy that VAT must be reduced from 17.5% to 15%. We are committed to that. We recognize, though, and the economists will tell you, that when you give people greater spending power, and it will give people greater spending power, that the risk is always that people will overspend, and it will put pressure on the foreign reserves, because a lot of what we consume is bought from overseas. And you buy from overseas, and it is bought in foreign currency. So that there's always a balance you must achieve. You offer tax relief, but you are careful as to how that spending is done. But we in the Democratic Labour Party say to you that at this juncture of our history, when there's so much hardship in Barbados, it is more important to give people greater spending power while monitoring the foreign exchange complement. And we say to you, this government has said to you that the foreign exchange reserves are high. They have said that. But we don't intend to be a reckless government. We intend to be a careful government. But we also intend to be a compassionate government. We intend to be a government that cares for people. And we recognize that people in Barbados are enduring hardship, that they simply cannot spend as they deserve to. And while we keep our eyes on the foreign reserves, we must keep our hands, those helping hands, on the shoulders of the majority in this country who are finding spending difficult to do because they do not have enough to spend. And the reduction of VAT from 17.5 to 15% will give people greater spending power. And ask the economists. The economists will have to admit as well that when spending increases, it stimulates the economy. There is growth in the economy. And when you have growth in the economy, more money circulates in the economy, and there's the spill-off effect. Businesses benefit. And when businesses benefit, employment is created. So that we are hearing that the economy is doing well. But the reality is that the economy is doing well for the very wealthy. The economy is not doing well for us. The economy is not doing well for the middle and the poor. And what do? This Democratic Labour Party remains committed to putting greater spending power back in the hands of the citizens of this country. And tonight we have come to challenge the Barbados Labour Party. We have come to challenge the Barbados Labour Party on that issue. And there's been a lack of excitement to the Barbados Labour Party manifesto. A lack of excitement because it has brought nothing to the people of Barbados. It has repeated the Ponzi schemes. It has repeated the three-card trick. And we are hearing about some Republic fund for children born after the date that this country became a republic, that in how many years? 18 years? That they will get a sum of money. 18 years. The people in Barbados suffering right now. There's a lot of hardship in this country right now. Right now, the children can't go to school. Right now, too many children are in school hungry. Right now, too many children are suffering. Right now, too many pensioners are suffering in silence and dignified silence. Right now, not 18 years from now, right now. And the Barbados Labour Party government ought to have come to the people of Barbados, and they ought to have come to the people of Barbados and say, what are we going to do right now? But they're telling you 18 years from now, they want us to suffer for 18 years. We want relief right now. The taxpayers of this country want relief right now. The pensioners in this country want relief right now. And that is why this Democratic Labour Party is proposing to remove taxation from pensions in Barbados right now. It must happen right now. We can't wait. We can't wait for 5 years. We can't wait for 10 years. And we don't intend to wait for 18 years. And that is why you must dismiss. To do two things. To give people greater spending power. And secondly, to stimulate the economy. To put more money in the economy. To have more money generated within the economy. To create jobs, as I said. So that businessmen, the incomes of businessmen and businesswomen will increase. And when I talk businessmen, I'm not only talking about the rich. Because there are a lot of small businessmen in this country. And they too must have a chance right now. Right now. Now, ours is a commitment to focus on indirect taxation. That is to say, a lot of the taxation that you see, or a lot of the taxation that you pay, is invisible. But you pay it all the same. And we have come to tell the truth. We have not come to tell you that you can live in a country in which there is no taxation. But taxation must be wise. Taxation must be not only wise, but it must be what we call progressive. And taxation is progressive when people bear the responsibility of taxation based on their means. In other words, you don't overtax the people at the bottom and undertax the people at the top. And Barbados, this is what the Barbados Labour Party government has been doing. I have sat in a parliament, and I will say this on every platform. I have sat in a parliament and seen this Barbados Labour Party government come to the parliament. And when they're dealing with the rich, they give concessions. And when they're dealing with the poor, they increase the burden of taxation. They punish the poor and those in the middle. And I have said it before, and I'm going to say it in St. Peter again, because for the extent of this campaign, the people of Barbados must know what has been the deliberate policy of the Barbados Labour Party government. We came up hearing that the Barbados Labour Party defends the rich, and that the Democratic Labour Party defends the poor. And the policies of the Barbados Labour Party have proved that. That people who own villas are given concessions, for God's sake. A man builds a villa or a set of apartments 8 or 9 stories into the sky, and he receives concessions. And a poor man or a man in the middle converts his bungalow into apartments, and he is punished. Taxes are heaped on his shoulder. But we say, by way of concession, that everyone must pay taxes. And everyone must pay taxes fairly. And everyone must pay taxes based on their means. And you do not impose a heavy burden on poor people while easing the burden on the rich people. And when the rich people disclose that they're getting richer, you tell the poor people that the country is doing well. The country is doing well for a certain class of persons, but the country is not doing well for us. And that is why you need to have wise, progressive, and compassionate tax policy so that individuals, the lives of individuals are enhanced, and the life of the economy is enhanced as well. The life of the economy becomes more buoyant. And so, those are two of the main proposals of this Democratic Labour Party, to give people greater spending power while protecting our foreign exchange complement. And I repeat that this government has boasted to you that they have high foreign reserves, so that if they do, it is at this point, yes, it is all borrowed, but they ought to have invested it into the economy. What evidence is there that they have invested it into the economy? What they have done, they have borrowed money to repay earlier loans that they've taken. That money has not been invested in the people of Barbados. That money has been borrowed to repay other loans. And those other loans, they fell into breach in terms of what they said they were borrowing the money for. And we are here in the north, and we have to repeat to you, St. Lucie, we have to repeat to you, St. Peter, that the government borrowed $125 million US from the European Investment Bank, saying to the people of Barbados that they were going to build a hospital in St. Lucie. Is there a hospital in St. Lucie? $125 million. So that is a clear demonstration that this government is breaching its promises to the lending agencies. And while we should have had that hospital in the north, we don't know where the money is. Is this good government? No. Is this honest government? No. Is this government that you can trust? No. Well, I want you from now to trust this Democratic Labour Party. This Democratic Labour Party that is bringing honest proposals to the people of Barbados, and we make the concession. If you give us the government, we recognize that we will have to spend a lot of time repairing the damage that has been done, not only to the economy, but to the lives of the people of Barbados. And the burden must be eased by the easing of the tax burden. And I repeat, we recognize that all of us have an obligation to pay taxes. But taxes, when they become a burden, it is the responsibility of the government that has imposed the tax in the first place to ease that burden. And that is our position. Our position is one in which fiscal policy represents one of the tools to the alleviation of hardship in Barbados. And we will continue to tax people. We have to, because this is a social democratic party. And this is a social democratic party that recognizes that services must be provided. We say it all the time, and it becomes a simple lesson. Democratic Labour Party, leave these meetings and leave with education. That the social services, we must continue to provide them. Education and health, and transport and subsidized housing, and welfare payments for those who are in dire straits, financially and socially. But I'm in the north, and let us make some proposals tonight in relation to transport. Let us say that what this Democratic Labour Party proposes to do in relation to transport reform. Now, you do know that for many years we have lived, those of us who have lived past 50 and 60 years, we have experienced a transport system that has focused on Bridgetown and movement along the south coast, and movement along the middle of Barbados, and movement along the west coast. That is how our transport system has been structured. The movement out of Bridgetown and into Bridgetown along 3 corridors. One along the south towards the east, one in the middle, St. George, St. Thomas, up to St. Andrew, and the third one along the west coast to St. Peter and St. Lucie. That is how our transport system has been structured. We in the Democratic Labour Party come to you tonight to say that that transport system needs to be reformed. It needs to be restructured. Because there's a link between transport and commerce. It is about moving people from their homes to work or to places of commerce where they spend money. And so reform is needed. And over the last 30, 40, 50 years, Bridgetown has ceased to be the main commercial area in Barbados. But the transport system has not recognized that. The transport system has functioned as if Bridgetown remains the only center of commerce. Yet, you have had 6 roads. 6 roads has emerged. Let's come down the coast. You have Oistins. And indeed, you have that entire stretch from Oistins down to the garrison. All commerce. Mainly commerce. Then you go inland, you have Warrens. You have Sky Mall. You have Sheraton. Inland. And I would say you even have the Glebe, which could emerge with proper planning as one of the central commercial areas in Barbados. You will hear me on that on Saturday night. 4 roads. St. John, prepare yourself for great plans. 4 roads will have to become one of the developing commercial centers in Barbados because we have an entire parish with 1 gas station. That's not right. And Belle Plaine, yes. And let us come to the west. Apart from Bridgetown, you have Whole Town. And the stretch from Walmer Lodge down to here in St. Peter. That's commerce, tourism, just like the South Coast, a corridor of commerce, the South Coast and the West Coast. And then you have Speightstown, and Speightstown needs a special story needs to be told about Speightstown. Because it has ceased in many ways because of policy, political and developmental policy. It has ceased to be a town. It is dying as a town. And I always make the comparison between Speightstown and Oistins. Oistins continues to thrive as a town because people live there. And that is what contributes to the character of township. The fact of residence by people in that town. Whole Speightstown has diminished as a town, has declined as a town. It is not quite as residential as it used to be. And what you will notice about that beautiful stretch, it has now become upmarket. Upmarket and residential and high-end restaurants. That is what it has become. And you will know that Speightstown commerce, indigenous commerce, local commerce, has moved from coastal Speightstown to what they designed as a bypass. This road, when it was first designed, was called a bypass. And that was not wise. It was not wise to create a bypass and kill a town. That's the reality. And spike the town, yes. So that your development must be related to people. Your physical development must be related to human interests. And Speightstown has suffered because the physical development of Speightstown has not been related to human interests, human cultural and commercial interests. And that has been the problem with Speightstown. But people are creative. And those who live in Speightstown or work in Speightstown will tell you that while the main street has become high-end, the local people have moved inland, and the bypass, and there by the lights, that is where local commerce is now emerging. But it is not as vibrant as it used to be. When I was coming down here as a little child every New Year's Day, the town was coastal. You had the stores, Worrell, and all the other stores, and Edwards. And it was a beautiful town. I was driving through the street there from round the town. And what a beautiful little town. It is like some of the towns in Europe with the buildings and the narrow streets. And Speightstown has such a great cultural heritage. But the governments have tended to focus on the high end on the coast, which has destroyed the character of this great town, of this beautiful town, of this center of commerce and culture. And so the indigenous people, the local people, are forced to move inland because the coast is desirable and the coast attracts big money. And when the coast attracts big money, it forces the small people out. And we have seen before our very eyes the death of a town at the hands of big money. And that's a fact. That is the reality. But I'm on to transport. And so transport must readjust itself to move people from commercial center to commercial center, from town to town. And so the design of transport in Barbados puts hardship on people. Because a man who lives in St. John and works in Speightstown, he always complains, look, I have to catch 2 buses to get to work, and then another 2 to go back home. $350 and $357, 7 by 2, $14 he's spending. Or the lady, if she's working at a gas station, $14 plus lunch a day impoverishes her. And work becomes futile. Work becomes a nonsense. But the transport system has to readjust. And a sophisticated transport system must work in such a way that people do not overspend on bus fares. That people must be able, if you live in the Whim, you must be able to walk out on the street and catch a bus direct to Warren's. As the largest commercial center in Barbados, Warren's is now probably a more important commercial center than Bridgetown. Maybe thousands of people work there. But if you're working in Warren's and you don't have a car, how do you get there? Maybe 2 buses. And not everybody in Warren's has a car. Because there are retail establishments in Warren's where people do not have cars, where people are not highly paid. But they are disadvantaged by a transport system which is not designed to meet the interests of those who are at the bottom levels of society. And so a properly working transport system must be able to move people in a way that they have a direct trip from home to work and not to be disadvantaged by having to catch 4 buses in one day and sometimes more than 4. And that is how we in this Democratic Labour Party will redesign a transport system to stop people from having to catch so many buses to get to work. But not only that, the bus system needs to be rationalized. The bus system needs to be rationalized in such a way that you don't have one bus making such a long trip. As I said, if you're living in the center of Barbados and you're working in Whole Town or you're working in Oistins, those same comfortable electric buses should be moving on proper roads and making one trip. So that transport should be crisscrossing Barbados. The point I'm making is that we must decentralize transport out of Bridgetown and move various transport centers or various zones or various transport stations across the country so that wherever you have a commercial center or a town, you will have an available bus service as part of that town. And that is what development is all about. That is what physical development is all about. Physical development makes sense only when it marries itself with human development and easing the burden on the poor and the middle, on those who catch the buses. But one day perhaps we will have such a well-working transport system that all classes leave home your car, catch a bus, catch a good comfortable bus. Last night we were in College Savannah and we looked into the bus. They're nice, you know. We don't come here to lie to you. They're nice. I never rode in a bus with air conditioner yet. I never rode in a bus with Wi-Fi yet. And we have buses around here now with all these amenities, air conditioning and Wi-Fi and comfort. But this government has breached its responsibility to fix the roads. And road work and road repair has to be a part of physical development. Because if you don't repair your roads, you destroy your vehicles. So that when this government at 11:15 in the night is up there fixing a road, it is an admission, it is evidence that this government does not understand that development is holistic, that you cannot focus on one aspect of development. You cannot focus on physical development at the expense of human development. And that is how this government has functioned. Everything is a political machination. Everything is a political trick. For God's sake, man, we gave you 5 years. Govern over the 5-year period. And this government has failed to govern. This government has shown that it is not capable. This government has shown that it has no stamina. This government has shown that its motives are wrong, that it is not about developing the people of Barbados, but that it is about remaining in office. And they can remain in office only by tricking people. But the tricks have ended. The tricks have ended. There is no proper development plan for the people in the north. I have heard Ian and Jason beg for a hospital down here. And the government, as I said, and I'm going to repeat it, told the European Investment Bank that they had a plan for a hospital down here. Where is it tonight? Where is it tonight? It ought to have been down here. And we still have people in this country who believe that the St. Joseph Hospital ought to have been revived. Let us come and talk physical development tonight. Let us come and talk human development tonight. Let us talk about the future of this country. This is not a place of entertainment. This is not a place of jokes. When people are suffering, when this country is suffering, when we owe billions of dollars to the overseas banks and we can't see any evidence of physical development and we can't see any evidence of human development because this country has no genuine plan for the people of this country. All this government has planned is a three-card trick, a Ponzi scheme to retain power at the expense of the interests of the people of this country. That is why we will continue for the extent of this campaign to discuss policy, to discuss human development, to discuss transport, to discuss the rationalization of transport so that it benefits this country. So that once again, public transport will be elevated. So that people don't have to feel that if they get into a bus, they get into a zone of warfare. Transport will be comfortable. And as I said, it will crisscross the country. And it will decentralize itself out of Bridgetown. And that there will be transport centers within every commercial center of Barbados. You see it at Sheraton. There are examples of it. You come out of Sheraton and you see the ZRs parked up out there. They do block some traffic, but they're moving people. So when you get vexed with the ZRs, always consider that there's a poor man in there who doesn't have a car. So when you get vexed with the driver for being reckless, spare thought for the young lady inside. Spare thought for the man inside. And that is his only means of transport. But the larger point is that what is happening at Sheraton is a demonstration that every commercial center does not develop or it does not complete itself as a commercial center unless within that center is a transport service made available. Warrants. So what is happening at Sheraton with the ZRs? It's not happening at Warrens. And that is great disadvantage to perhaps the low-level worker in Warrens. You come out. Warrens does not even respect the pedestrian. Warrens as a commercial center, it's not a town. Warrens as a commercial center never had any regard for the pedestrian, except to put zebra crossings dangerously across a very busy roadway. So Warrens has developed as buildings, cars, offices, stores, general retail centers, but no regard has been had for the pedestrian, for the ordinary man, for public transport. Warrens has developed. And I say to you, I bring to you the information and the education that there's a difference between a commercial center and a town. And that is what has separated Oistins from this Speightstown. And that you have seen the growth of Oistins, not only as a commercial center, but as a town. And what makes Oistins attractive? Friday nights, one of the most attractive zones in Barbados. That some of the people who serve you, literally serve you on one side of the street, live on the other side of the street. That is a town. That is how a town, that is how a zone of humanity derives its character. It derives its character not from streets and buildings, but it derives its character from the people who live there. And that is what people, visitors, and local visitors and those from overseas will find attractive. They go to experience the town. And you do not experience a town by buildings. You experience a town by feeling the people. And that is why a lot of tourists will get out of the taxi and walk through the boatyard, which ought not to have been enclosed. They walk through the boatyard. And then they walk from the boatyard through the fish market. And then they walk from the fish market through the Bay Garden. Because they want to feel the character, they want to feel the flavor of the town. Oistins has that, Speightstown has lost it. Speightstown has lost it because Speightstown has become exclusive and upmarket and upscale. And that main street that we used to stroll along as little children and see the people on the esplanade and see the little old men playing the worry and the women chatting at roadside. Character, character. The character of a town derives itself from humanity, from local humanity. And that is what Speightstown has lost, and that is what Oistins has tonight. Can we regain that? A thinking government will help to regain that. And I want to congratulate those in Speightstown. Although they have been forced out by big money, they have migrated on the other side of the road to the place that was originally designed as a bypass road. But it is not a bypass road any longer because people must migrate and find settlement somewhere. And they have found settlement on that very road. And the town is developing. And Speightstown can develop. And it can develop for the local population. In spite of the coastal development, it can move inland and go as far as Jason's favorite polyclinic and go as far as the St. Joseph Hospital, obviously, and go up to around the town and here by the gas station and by the Chefette and so on. That is the development and the redevelopment of a commercial center. But from a commercial center, if it is to become a town again, it must respect residential rights. And that is where Speightstown is struggling. And that is where Oistins is thriving. And when I was there, I used to say it all the time, that Oistins will not be Oistins unless both sides of the road are equally vibrant. Residential Oistins must marry itself with commercial and coastal Oistins. And any plan that this government has to turn the Oistin Civic Center into a hotel, fine, they will respect that. But they must never come on the other side of the road and attempt to remove the residents. This is what happened in Speightstown. And so we bring education as to commercial development. But not only commercial development, human development. I had no idea I was here so long. It is 11:25. And I'm not going to keep you here until 11:30. I just want you, next week, when you go out to vote, vote with the recognition that a vote relates itself to your future. Don't let Josiah have to tell you that. You must know it for yourself. A vote relates itself to your future as to whether you will have transport, and this government says that it is closing transport. Is your vote worth nothing? Must you not have a voice in opposition to this government's plan to close the transport board when we have come here tonight and shown you how transport can be rationalized and improved in this country to the advantage of people so that they don't have to pay 2 bus fares, but that they will pay one in a transport system that crisscrosses this island? That is what your vote is about. And your vote is about the retention and the improvement of the hospital and the medical delivery services. That is what your vote is about. Your vote is about access to subsidized housing simply because a lot of people in Barbados cannot afford comfortable accommodation. Your vote is about continued education when a minister of education threatens children by writing a letter to them and telling them how much education costs. We know in this country how much education costs because the taxpayers of this country have always committed themselves to educating the poor children in this country. Like when we were poor children and could not pay for it, and the taxpayers paid for my education direct from primary right up to university, and that is why I'm here tonight. I am here tonight as part of my duty to repay a debt to this country. And I'm not interested in great wealth. I'm interested in the greatness of this country. And I know that the greatness of this country has been reversed by this Barbados Labour Party. And when you come to vote next week, you will vote for a country. You will vote for a party that will return this country to peace. To peace and to progress and to justice. That is what you will vote for next week. I encourage you, St. Peter. I encourage you, St. Lucy. I encourage you, St. Andrew, to vote wisely next week. Vote for policy. Vote for this Democratic Labour Party. God bless you and good night.
How you getting this? Hey, we all in this with Ralphie. Plus we all in this with Ralphie. Yeah, one vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Ralphie step up to set things right. From Christchurch East to St. Lucie, everybody know he stand for we. He watch them laws, line by line. He said follow the law, not the head lady. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie, yeah. We all in this with Ralphie, yeah. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. He crossed the floor to unite the country. So everybody sing in harmony. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. He said to the house, how you getting this?
Thank you very much, Comrade Leader, for your address. And we want to also acknowledge James Paul St. Michael West Central. Thank you for coming with us. And tomorrow night, we want to see you in your numbers at the Glebe. Tomorrow night at the Glebe. Remember, your vote is your voice, is the power to shape your future and to hold leaders accountable and to decide the direction of our nation. You have been attentive, audience. Good night and get home safe.